Hello, we are Geeks Assembled, and we have gathered here again today. And today we are going to talk about Rumpole of the Old Bailey, and it's Rumpole and the Confession of Guilt. And I think Alex has chosen this one, so we're actually going to start off with Alex and Susan. There he is showing off his DVDs and books. Alex, what do you think of Rumpole?
Oh. This is one of my top 5 favorite British TV shows. I started reading the books when I was 7 years old. Unfortunately, both John Mortimer and Leo McKern, who was just shown, had died in 2001. So, and of course, you can get it on Amazon. You can get it in old video stores if there's still any around. And of course, they're also on YouTube with or without the commercials, if you're too stingy to pay for it. This is the original pilot. There was a second pilot for the TV show, which had 7 seasons and 2 TV movies. And it was even covered on the Today Show, the TV movie. But since I have a lot to say on it, and I don't want to drown out the rest of the cast, I'll be quiet for a moment.
Alex, why make an exception for this one?
Because I am. My lord. So if I may, if the members please, I will now pass over the microphone to Susan or to the other members, and then hopefully at the end I will try to summarize how much I love this series.
We haven't got that long, Alex.
TV show. Yeah, book and TV show.
We ain't got that long, Alex.
Oh yes, you do.
Oh dear, this is so fun.
I want to finish by midnight.
Okay, the first episode I saw, when we just had a rewatch of the whole series, was the pilot with the people of alternative lifestyle. But this one was of a guy who's sort of a murder, and anyway, the kid couldn't read, and the police guy in the courtroom said that he wrote this confession. Pretty much the whole prosecution was resting on this written confession that this kid, a young man, had been part of a group of guys in sort of a gang sort of feel, like a bunch of hooligans, a bunch of football hooligans after a game, after a match, and they went and stabbed this guy just waiting at the bus stop, waiting at the bus queue, and anyway, so here he is in the dock, and he's got this piece of paper. The police constable says, yeah, for sure he wrote this. But, it turns out the kid couldn't read. So Rumpole won the day because he went to the motions of, trying to plea and trying to, work it out with this kid. And it turns out the kid, and he hands this kid a signed statement that says, I will plead this case. And the kid is like looking at it, and he said, you read that back to me, and he couldn't. So anyway, Rumpole, played by Leo McKern, rocks my socks. He's a really great. It's a really great character, and I've heard that the new stuff is being done by Benedict Cumberbatch, and I listened to just a snippet of it, of one of the ones that had already been translated into a television show. But he was okay. But Leo McKern pretty much is amazing. And so, yeah, there wasn't any of the other actors in this unaired or this backdoor pilot sort of thing from Play of the Day. There was a different lady, a different She Who Must Be Obeyed, a different George, a different. All the main characters were played by different actors than they were in the series. So that happened. Anyway, that's my opening bits.
Is it being remade, is it, Susan? Did you say being remade?
For audio, yes.
Can I just say, you can't. I've only watched one episode of this. I didn't even know it existed before. Alex had chosen it.
Welcome.
But only this guy can play Rumpole. I mean, he was amazing. I mean, I could see it. I could see a younger Brian Blessed, which he reminded me of. His voice reminded me, because very powerful voice. Didn't he have a very powerful voice? Brian Blessed could have done the role, but this guy was great. No, Benedict Cumberbatch. No, I didn't even know there were 7 seasons of this. What season is this in, by the way?
This is the backdoor pilot.
This is the backdoor pilot. It's from a TV show, another TV show that I've never heard of called Play of the Day.
Yeah.
And Beef Dad probably has seen it.
So this isn't in the series itself, then? No. Okay. Oh.
Leo McKern. Oh my gosh.
Speaking about Beef Dad, let's go to Beef Dad.
Yeah, one of the reasons that this doesn't appear in any of the series is because this was a Play of the Day, which was a series of plays done on the BBC, and they did some brilliant plays. This one, they hummed and hawed about possibly making a series of Rumpole of the Bailey, but the thing is, they never really got themselves sorted out. And so John Mortimer took it to ITV, and ITV made the series to great acclaim. As you say, Horace Rumpole, no one else could have played it like Leo McKern. Absolutely brilliant. Of course, you have She Who Must Be Obeyed. She was a lovely concept, shall we say. But they were always arguing anyway. And, of course, there was his son, Nick, who always resented his father spending so much time at the Old Bailey. Yeah, this story was a good story. And there was plenty of humour in it, but it was also very cleverly worked out. And yeah, I remember it because I saw it on Play of the Day when it was first put out. And I was lucky. And of course, when it became a series on ITV1, my mother and father also loved it, so we watched it every week. Yeah, so yeah, a great choice.
Yeah, no, well done, Alex. Well done. Let's go to Lee.
Yeah, the day 1975, RTV series. I think it was 1978 it started. Not a fan. To be honest, I'm not of courtroom dramas, full stop. But I understand why people love this so much. It's well written, well acted, and you can see why it lasted so many seasons. But I'm just not a fan of courtroom dramas. Never have been. I didn't like Kavanagh QC. Didn't like Perry Mason. Them sort of things. But Leo McKern, yeah, there's no one else can play Rumpole. The audios with Benedict Cumberbatch. I've heard a couple. No, Rumpole is a grumpy old man, rum swigging, cigar smoking. Not Benedict Cumberbatch. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was. I mean, it wasn't too long. It was just an hour, and you could see where it was going because I've never seen this sort of this pilot, so-called pilot, but you could guess halfway through that the kid couldn't read or write. and you knew it. The police had set, had written the statement. But 1975, this was happening all the time in real life, and I'm sure sometimes it still goes on today. The police altering statements and stuff. But I won't get too far into that because we don't want the channel taken down. I enjoyed it. As I say, I'm just not a fan of courtroom dramas, but they're well acted. Leo McKern, whatever he did, comedy, drama, you couldn't knock him really. And the thing what people don't realise is he wasn't British. No. Over to you, Alid.
Well, can I just say it'd be an absolute travesty for this world if this channel was taken down. This channel is really the pillar of society. I mean, we've got to have the most watched videos on YouTube. We really have. I do love a bit of courtroom drama, though. And, well, I didn't know what to expect coming into this because I'd never heard of it before. But I really did enjoy it. I thought it was a good story. It's quite relevant to today because there's a lot of stabbings that obviously go on. There's a big discussion about, race and things like that and stabbings, and that still goes on today, which it's a load of all nonsense because it doesn't matter who you are. If you've got a knife and you stab somebody, color or whatever or anything like that has got nothing to do with it. So yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I didn't recognize any of the cast, but I thought the cast was very good. I liked it when it went inside his head, like you could hear his thoughts and things like that. That was a good element that they added. What else? Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah, let's go into favorite. There is something else I want to say. I can't remember. It's on the tip of my tongue. Let's go to favorite moments. I'll think of it in a second now. Let's go to Lee. Favorite moments, Lee, if you've got any.
Well, so the favorite moments is when Rumpole and I forgot the kid's name. Was it Gladstone? Kid's name Gladstone were in the cell sort of thing, and he was trying to make him plead guilty. It wasn't him, and in the end, he had to do what the kid said. He's saying he hasn't done it. We have to go. It's going to be a long court case. But one of the favourite moments is where he's sort of baiting the judge. He's also setting up, giving the other guy ideas of his opposition in court. We'll make this one a court. We'll get out. We'll go for dinner and stuff like that. Because Rumpole is a wily old beast. He knows what he's doing. I mean, as I say, I'm not a fan of this show, but I have seen episodes, and I have seen the way Rumpole does all these court cases. He plays people, and that's the good thing about the way Leo McKern plays it. And I do agree with Alid, the way Leo McKern narrated his thoughts, reading Wordsworth and stuff like that, was a good touch. So yeah, it's British drama at its one of its best. What can you say?
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, and like you said, I knew they were gonna get the kid out of it in the end, and using the fact that he couldn't read, I thought that was good for the story because it had to be a way that he got out of it, and the fact that he couldn't read because the police had said, "Oh, he read this out. He read this statement out, and he read this statement. He read it. He couldn't read and write." So, as soon as Rumpole said that was it. It was finished. Let's go to Susan and Alex for favourite moments. I'm sure Alex.
Okay, well, like I said, the series, the TV movies, even the books, I mean, there was very little that I really had a problem with, and I've been reading it for years. I'm sorry that they couldn't find anybody else to continue it, but at the same point, John Mortimer and Leo McKern did the job, and they did it better than anybody else. Again, the favorite moments is not to just take everything at face value, not to just assume because the kid is Jamaican. He wasn't. And again, country to country, it changes. For instance, here they say black, but I mean, that's just the color, and it doesn't have to have a race connotation, but they've made it that way. And also, there's many different shades of color in the world, in the universe. So just because they use the N word, which I didn't like, but you know, it's also a rough, you know, world that you're dealing with here. But like I said, I mean, almost everything in Rumpole I like. Almost every story that John Mortimer wrote, almost every scene that Leo McKern did, I liked it. And I am a fan of Perry Mason. The other reason why I like it is because it's a combination of England from 1900 to 1990, and also a combination of Perry Mason and P.G. Wodehouse. So if you really look at it with an open mind and not just take things at face value, you could actually learn a lot about human nature and questioning things, and not just accepting, well, just because somebody in authority says it, or just because somebody's a guy, or just because somebody's a girl, that doesn't automatically assume that everything they say, everything they do, every assumption that you have of that person is right. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, I like the series, because he makes you question, except for be fair, you know, look for justice. Laws and justice are not the same thing. So yes, he does manipulate people. And I know it's hypocritical in a way, especially in this PC world. But you can manipulate people for good and negative reasons. Just like prejudice can be good or negative. Assumptions can be good or negative. So I like TV shows that make you think, going, oh, I thought I knew this person. You know, that's not the case. So that's one of the reasons why I love the series so much, is because even at 7 years old, it started making me think, you know, yes, I want to respect things, but that doesn't mean I take it as gospel truth.
See, you've just reminded me of what I wanted to say that I forgot, is the N word, because I'm always quite shocked when that's used in anything. That's probably because of the generation I'm from, you know, brought up in the 90s. So whenever that word is used, it's like, oh, whoa, don't say that word on television. I know a lot of young people and a lot of YouTubers use it today, you know, and it's used in music quite often, and no one seems to have a problem, but I don't think really you should be using it. But this is back then, and
well, I mean, yeah. I mean, again, if you listen to the interviews of John Mortimer, and he was a lawyer, and his father was a lawyer, and his grandfather was a lawyer, so he actually used experience,
yeah,
from the court cases, so it wasn't totally fictionalized. But I've also read people that hate this show and hate the book series, and again, I think they're missing the nuances and the point. Again, if you say Negro regularly, or if you say Negro as a color meaning black, that doesn't necessarily mean a negative, hateful connotation. Unfortunately, it has had, especially in America, a very negative connotation. And that's part of the reason why the rappers use it. I don't want to use it because I don't, you know, I'm physically disabled. I have brown skin. How can I, you know, I shouldn't be judging anybody based on their physical appearance anyway. But the thing is, even physical appearance has a limit. And if a person's bad, it doesn't matter what race they are. If they're evil, or if they're hateful, or if they're using people, that's still bad. It doesn't matter what, you know, what money they make or what they look like.
Right.
Exactly. And that's with every society.
and his point leads right into my point. My favorite bits were the parts where he says one thing to she who must be obeyed, or to the judge, or to somebody else, and they hear him speaking under his breath, and he comes back with something that rhymes like it and sounds like it, and it's the same rhythm, but it's not the same words. And so what all this, this little bit of vitriol that comes out of his mouth is tempered by his intellect at the last minute. He's brilliant. The character is brilliant. I mean, I love the way the character is, and I watched Law and Order UK for the dichotomy of the police versus the courtroom, like that. There is a dichotomy there. There is a law versus justice thing, and this one is it's all wrapped up in the courtroom. And I love how in later parts of the series, what became a series, his daughter joins, and Samantha Bond joins, and Camille Codry is in it. Who played?
Yeah, there's a lot of people from Doctor Who.
A lot of people from Doctor Who.
In small roles.
In small roles, but yeah, it was really interesting. I enjoyed and I watched it a bunch of times on public televisions, on the mystery show on public television, and that was really fun in the 70s and 80s. So anyway,
90s. Yeah, because the series went from 75 and the book series went from 75 to 2000, and then unfortunately John Mortimer had MS and he died, and they actually published half of his book. So you're reading the last book and Rumpole gets mugged, but the problem is he died and nobody had any notes or anything. So he reports it to somebody and the book just ends. It's just blank pieces of paper.
Wow.
So for a series that was known for having sequels and continuation, and he was in the nursing home and then he came back and he was a lawyer again, and all.
And he went to America?
Yeah, he went. Yeah, but that was in the 80s. But I'm saying it's so funny for such a verbose series to just end, because Leo McKern died of complications of diabetes, plus he retired. So they ended the TV series in 96. They ended the book series in 2000, 2001. And John Mortimer was also unpopular for his non-politically correct, state human nature as he sees it. And he was also criticizing Princess Diana, and that made him very unpopular. The way that they were
never do that.
Yeah, advertising her sainthood in Gentleman's Quarterly. So I guess a lot of people, unfortunately, may have been grateful when these two passed away. I wasn't, because to me, I understood what the series was saying, and there was a lot of feminine characters as well, and female characters that were strong. They weren't weaklings. They weren't easily led. Yeah, there's a lot. Phillida and Fiona Always, and Liz Probert, and there was a lot of other, and Hilda Rumpole, as a matter of fact, who was always yelling.
You must be obeyed.
Yeah, always yelling at him. So think about it that way as well, that this is supposed to be the 70s, the 80s, and they had a lot of strong female characters. Just because they're not presented the way that most society or networks present them, that doesn't mean they weren't their own characters and had their own mind. So that's the other question of not just accepting it at face value, you know what I mean? And I think that's the other issue that human nature always has had to deal with, is that you don't just accept things at face value or based on appearance.
Alex, it was Susan's turn.
Okay, go ahead. I'm just saying. Yeah.
It's all right. I only had one other favorite moment, and that was the the home life of Rumpole when he was with She Who Must Be Obeyed. He and Hilda are hilarious together. That's my bit. Thanks.
Thank you, Alex and Susan. Let's go to Beef Dad for favourite moments.
Yeah, I go along with Susan on the Rumpole and She Who Must Be Obeyed sitting down and having a meal. That was fun. Of course, one thing nobody's mentioned, that when he was 15 years old, Leo McKern lost his left eye. So he has a glass eye. He only has one functioning eye, but he's brilliant. And certainly at times he uses it to great effect. The other thing I liked, I really enjoyed the bit where he was sitting with with Ozzie Gladstone, the defendant, and because he'd been spoken to by the Reverend, who had informed him that Ozzie couldn't read or write, and when it came out, that particular moment was brilliant. And then in the courtroom, where he basically took the detective inspector to pieces on the witness stand, I thought that was absolutely superb.
Yeah, no, that's my favourite moment. When he completely takes the detective down and the police. When he starts questioning them and about the statement. And of course the kid can't read, so they've got no, they were clearly caught red-handed on it. Really caught red-handed. So that's my favourite moment. Lee, do you not like this stuff because it's a lot of talking? Is there not enough action? Because there's no action. I mean, there's no part from.
When I was growing up, when I was a young kid in the 1970s.
Oh, come on! He means 1940s, folks.
No, but the TV back then, you only had so many channels, and there was always. I mean, Beef Dad will verify this. There was always Crown Court on TV. It was just shades of brown.
I hope you said shades of brown.
Yes, I did.
Oh, but, thank you.
Growing up,
You glitched on shades.
but growing up as a little kid with this on TV, and I say Rumpole was sort of late on the night. Maybe it was at 8 o'clock at night or something like that. It was sort of seen as grown-up TV. It was, to a young kid, it was a bit dull and boring. These people stood there in wigs. But I mean, I don't mind it, but I'm just not a fan of courtroom dramas across the board. I don't know if it's been mentioned. John Mortimer. He was the consultant for the TV series Boston Legal, political consultant in his later life, and that was a good series, sort of. Yeah, that's it. I knew Alex was going to go like that. That's the main reason why I'm not a big fan of it. It was just growing up because there wasn't much on TV when I was young.
So if you didn't hold that against it, you'd enjoy it more.
I didn't say I didn't enjoy it. I just said I'm not a fan of courtroom drama. I said it was a brilliant, good drama. That's it. Yeah, I'm just not a fan of courtroom dramas.
Someone take the spade off.
I haven't given me story.
He's shoveling that a deeper hole, isn't he, for himself? He's backtracking.
You can like something. You can like an episode of this or like a series of this, but not be a fan of the genre.
No, you can't. No, you can't, Lee. No, we're not having that. You've got to either love it or hate it.
Sure, you can. I wasn't a fan of the genre either, but I do enjoy
Until
Rumpole
she
the
met
Bailey
Alex, she
and
had no
Law
choice.
and Order UK.
Well, again, bringing up Lee's point now that he mentions it, yes, I know that John Mortimer, I mean, as I said, in later years, he was suffering from multiple sclerosis and he was using a wheelchair where he didn't in the earlier part of his life. Obviously, with Rumpole out of TV after 1996, because I guess they had squabbles with the producers. I guess some of the producers wanted to make it more like Ally McBeal or Boston Legal. And part of the reason why you have fans in this country was it wasn't presented that way. Even if they had similar or slightly similar scenarios, they didn't present it that way. And also, too, yes, I can understand what Lee is saying. After a while, a lot of the plots, just like with a cop show, can be very, very similar. Ellen Beale, unfortunately, while set in Boston and Boston Legal as well, it wasn't really. And there was another show, as a matter of fact, I forgot the name of it. They can show, the buildings of Boston, and they can show, talk about Massachusetts General Hospital, and these are sort of landmarks. But at the same point, in Boston, in reality, because I live here, they had different cases. They were similar in the sense that the news TV carried them sort of as a circus, like the Louise Woodward fiasco back in the 90s, because she was English. And they were making fun of, the colloquialisms and the slang and all this other stuff. But getting back to representing it in legal terms on TV, obviously Rumpole didn't want to show that side. I think that was one of the problems with the author. He even admitted, I don't want to make it totally modern. I want to make it somewhat modern, but I don't want to turn it into Ally. And if he had turned it into Ally McBeal, yeah, I probably would have stopped watching. If he had turned it into Boston Legal, yeah, I would have stopped, because the charm would have been gone. The point of view would have been gone. And it would have been more superficial and more, emotional. Yes, in reality, it is very emotional, because I've had jury duty and things like that. So I understand that obviously the lawyers are going to present something a certain way, and the prosecution's going to present it another way, and then theoretically and practically you're supposed to have the jury of 12, make up their minds. And even here, you can ask the judge questions on a written note, and then you have to wait, and they either respond fully or they only say, think about it some more, and other things like that. I've never been on a grand jury, so I don't know if that's more complicated. But again, obviously,
The Bailey wouldn't be
right,
a grand jury.
the Bailey, right, and
the Bailey is a trial court with a jury.
Right, but there have been stories in the Rumpole universe where the judge decides it, or the ecclesiastical judge decides it. So obviously, that's the other question of life is, are you accepting things at face value? Can you believe, even if they swear, in court or whatever, whether it's a military court or a religious court or a state court or a federal court? Hopefully they're not out and outright lying. But then again, you can't read somebody's mind to know if they really are or not, But yeah, if they had made it totally modern, I wouldn't have watched it, because there's so much competition too.
Can I just say, Alex, I'm sorry, but I'm still in shock. You've just said you live in Boston. You've never told us that before. You've never mentioned it till now. Why have you kept it such a secret? Yeah. Susan, what was you going to say, if anything? Let's go to final say and score. Let's go to Beef Dad.
Excellent play, brilliant cast, superb story. I just love the English language. And this is English, as it is spoken by the English. Because of that, it gets a full 10 out of 10 from me.
I thought then he was going to say a 4. I thought, what? Let's go to Susan. and Alex, of course.
All right. Well, perhaps I will agree with Beef Dad in the score, and encourage you guys to have a watch of Rumpole of the Bailey. And if you'd like to, you can read the books by by John Mortimer,
Yeah.
and enjoy the other things that we've talked about, but Rumpole of the Bailey primarily. So yeah, 10 out of 10. Here's Alex.
Okay, well, as I said, I'm a lifelong fan. I was reading the books at the age of 7, believe it or not. And I watched the TV show soon afterwards. So even though I have tried to keep up with the series, even though it's mostly gone, and I understand that there's people that like it and hate it, and yes, it is slow in some respects. But again, it's the combination of part Perry Mason, part legal drama, part P.G. Wodehouse. And even though it's not super modern, and even though it's a little on the old-fashioned side, just like the Miss Marple books from Agatha Christie, if you read between the lines, you can see part of human nature and part of, the good and the bad side of any society. And I'm glad they kept it English, and I'm kind of glad that they did end the TV show when they did, and I had the books to fall back on because he didn't die. John Mortimer didn't die until 2000. So I understand that maybe he had to help, write for GQ or Boston Legal, but that's not what I was a fan of. I was a fan of his writing. He also helped with Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf back in the late 60s. He helped write the first version of Brideshead Revisited in the 80s. And that's also what I was raised with. I was raised with Agatha Christie, John Mortimer. So it's an older style. It's not super flashy. It's not based on cell phones and reality shows and Facebook and all this other distractions. Actually, for the first episode, I like it, but I don't like it as much as the original series, which had a brand new first episode. And yes, they did change the cast from time to time, but they kept it 95%, close. And you had the same characters for 2 to 5 years, if not more. You had the same setting at the Bailey and also at their court, their equity court. And there were people from Doctor Who, and there were people from Blake 7, and there were people from other older TV shows. And because I'm such a fan of the series, I give it a 9, just based on, even though I don't like this pilot as much as the pilot for the ITV. I love the character. I love the.
If you were reviewing the ITV,
help.
So he's given this the same score as Ready Player One, then.
Yeah.
Which he gave a 9.
Okay, but Ready Player One
so
is going on for 8
equally
years.
as good.
Yeah,
Alex, if you were to give the ITV one a score, would that be a 10?
No, it's a 9.
You're never going to get a 10 from Alex.
No, nothing's perfect. But like I said...
you'd never give anything a 10.
You're never going to get a 10. Not, even of the thing he loves most, he wouldn't give a 10.
Like I said, the book series goes on for longer. And I give that a 10 as well. But that, like I said, I'm biased because I'm a lifelong fan.
Book
so
series. We got a 10 from Alex.
And I knew I was going to go over time. But I just really glad that this TV show and book series were created. And it taught me a lot, not only about England, but about human nature. And it's intellectual if you really look at it. And like I said, it's not perfect, but I really, 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 really like it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah.
Right, we're still going to go to Lee now for final say and score. Lee, can you go on longer than Alex?
Panel says. Yeah, what can I say?
Do you remember what we're talking about?
What is it? I'm not going to score it as high, and I'm not going to go low. So for me, I'm going to give it a 7.75. How's that?
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Yeah, 7.75.
Because I'm just not a big fan of this genre, but I understand completely where you guys are coming from.
Yep. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, I'm going to give it a... I'm going to give it... I'm split between this, whether to give it a 9 or a 10. And I think I'm going to go for a 9. No, I don't know. I think I'm going to give it a 10. Because I like the guy who plays Rumpole. I think he's brilliant. So I'm going to give it a 10. Yeah. I really genuinely enjoyed it. I mean, it's on YouTube. I think they're all on YouTube, aren't they? It's an hour long, or an hour and 1 minute mine was. I don't know what the 1 minute was about. There was no adverts during it. So I just sat there and watched the whole thing, and it was enjoyable. And that's what you want from a TV show. So it succeeded in that way. So tell us below what you think about Rumpole. If you've seen any of the stories, read any of the books. Thank you for watching. Thank you, everybody here, for joining me. Look after yourself. Take care. We will see you next time.